Hello and welcome to the Flourishing Introvert Talks with me, Jo Rawbone. This is the podcast that celebrates the natural gifts of introverts so that we can flourish in all situations. Episode 166, Riding the Peaks and Valleys in Life. If you've been listening for any length of time, you'll know that one of my favourite definitions of flourishing comes from the positive psychologist Dr. Lynn Soots. She says, flourishing is the product of the pursuit and engagement of an authentic life that brings inner joy and happiness through meeting goals, being connected with life passions and relishing in accomplishments through the peaks and valleys of life. There are so many things that I love about her definition, as you know, and today I'm focusing on the peaks and valleys that we all experience. No one said life was going to be easy. So in particular, I've decided to focus on how to ride them rather than to feel at their mercy. You know I'm not a fan of victimhood. I have a little card framed and on my wall, which is a quote from Hunter S. Thompson. It reads, "Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, 'Wow, what a ride.'" The older I'm getting, the more I've given up on the well-preserved body, and the more I'm wanting to skid in broadside. I can even see the images of me doing just that. In order to achieve that desire, I need to learn how to ride those peaks and valleys like a BMXer or a motorcycle scrambler or a rallycross driver. My husband always said I'd make a good rallycross driver. I'm not sure what that says about my driving. Anyway, there is something here about enjoying the journey, the spills and the thrills and the variety that life throws at us, rather than trying to avoid it, that matters to me right now. So there is the paradox. Apparently, and I see this all the time on social media, introverts want a quiet life. But I want to explore and maybe even challenge what that really means. Because I don't think a quiet life means a life not lived, a life of avoidance, a boring life where nothing exciting happens. Well, it doesn't for me anyway. And I'm really hoping it doesn't for you either. Otherwise, we're potentially wasting this precious life that we have. So what does a quiet life mean to you? Here's some of what it means to me. It means having the self-awareness, tools and techniques to carve out the space I need to recharge in this increasingly noisy and fast-paced world. It doesn't mean becoming a hermit and opting out. Not only do I have too much to achieve for that not to be an option, but I don't even find it desirable. If you've chosen hermit, I salute you, and I can see how that might be appealing. But humans are social creatures, yes, even we introverts. This means we have a fundamental need to connect with others and build relationships. And for us, it's at a deep and meaningful level, not a superficial one. We're probably all aware of the research that has shown that social isolation and loneliness can have negative effects on our health, both physically and mentally. And importantly for us, social isolation has also been linked to increased risk of depression, anxiety, cognitive decline, and even mortality. That's why it's so important for us that we build a really useful support network of people around us who understand and can be there for us. I've never felt lonely, even through all those years of travelling overseas on my own for work. And in part, that's because I always have real friends who I can pick up the phone to, yes, I do pick up the phone, or jump on a video call with, and yes, I have my camera on, and I can do that when I really need to talk with someone. Shocking, right?
A quiet life also means I'm choosing to master the skills that enable me to ride the peaks and valleys. Just like learning to drive, we're not born with those skills. We learn them, and we're tested at each emergency stop, parallel park and three-point turn. People who really want to drive apply themselves to learning this skill, and some go even further by taking an advanced driving test or skid pan training. That type of learning requires a growth mindset because none of us is really going to get things right first every time, especially when we're straddling the competency zone and learning edge. If I reflect, it doesn't bear thinking about all the things I'd not be able to do now if I gave up at the first sign of difficulty. I've made a little list for myself, and maybe you could do that too. This proves to me that we have the focus and energy to learn and master the things that really interest us. So a good place to start is, what do you want to do or be in life? What mark do you want to leave on this world? Please don't say nothing or no mark, because the world needs we introverts to take our place as inclusive leaders. Too many extroverts have had their turn, let's face it, and look where that has got us. And leaving your mark doesn't have to be a big showy-offy thing. It can be discreet, but it still means that you've had purpose. I'll tell you what else a quiet life means to me. It means not perpetually dwelling in a state of inner turmoil, as this negatively impacts my well-being and ability to show up in the world. For clarity, inner turmoil can be defined as a state of inner conflict or unrest that arises from the tension between our desires, beliefs, and values. This conflict can manifest in different ways, such as feeling uncertain, anxious, frustrated, or guilty. However, inner turmoil can also be seen as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. As you might imagine, that's the part I'm really interested in. From a positive psychology perspective, inner turmoil is viewed as a natural and normal part of the human experience, and it can serve as a catalyst for personal transformation and development. It means that we're questioning what is important to us and expanding our comfort zones by working at that learning edge more often. Rather than cut it off or deny it, by exploring the underlying causes of our inner turmoil, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our motivations. This process can help us to cultivate greater resilience, compassion and wisdom, as well as enhancing our sense of purpose and our meaning in life. And that's partly why it serves as a catalyst for personal transformation. Because I don't want to be in a state of perpetual inner turmoil, does that mean I'm always certain of where things are going in life? Absolutely not. As that uncertainty is part of the peaks and valleys and why I need those riding skills. Practicing so many of the things that I mention in other shows applies here to reduce that turmoil. Firstly, focus on what is in my control or influence and let go of the rest. Secondly, uphold my boundaries and say no without guilt. Thirdly, go to my support network for a sanity check and accountability. Fourthly, balance thinking with action so I don't lose myself in introspection. And lastly, use techniques that get the issue out of my head and onto paper. This might be a list of pros and cons, wants and needs, likes and dislikes. You get the picture. That brings me on to probably the biggest thing that a quiet life means to me, and it's abstaining from unnecessary conflict with others. This is something I see many others do, and almost for sport. I derive no pleasure from this, but let me explain what I mean by unnecessary conflict. Conflict itself is simply a difference of opinion or a clash between two or more parties who have opposing interests, needs, goals or values. Necessary conflict is deemed to be essential to the functioning of a relationship, an organisation or indeed a society. It's a constructive conflict that arises from differences of opinion, perspectives or goals, and serves as a catalyst for growth, change and innovation. Necessary conflict can result in improved communication, improved collaboration and better problem solving, as it encourages individuals to express their ideas and perspectives openly as they find common ground. I have no problem with that because I know from experience that the creativity it often catalyses is remarkable. Unnecessary conflict, on the other hand, is a type of conflict that is avoidable, unproductive and destructive. It's often a point-scoring game that has no long-term benefit other than one party feeling right or superior. It arises from trivial or insignificant issues, misunderstandings or personal animosities. Unnecessary conflict can lead to negative consequences such as reduced productivity, damaged relationships and a toxic work environment. Dare I say here that organisations intent on hanging on to the extrovert ideal as the norm of culture is an example of that unnecessary conflict. I will work hard to avoid that unnecessary conflict as, well, it's unnecessary and a waste of my precious energy. So a quiet life for me is not playing small, hiding inside my introversion or using it as an excuse. It's living life on purpose with the necessary skills and techniques to have a positive impact whilst minding my energy. And that's exactly what I'll be helping people to achieve on the Unfulfilled to Flourishing course starting at the end of April. The link to get on the wait list is in the show notes, and you'll also find a link on my website, flourishingintroverts.com. It's only for a select group of people, so if you want to learn how to ride the peaks and valleys, live life on purpose and reach your potential, please take a look today. In the meantime, be thinking about what adventures you'll have in your life that will have you skid in broadside with a huge smile on your face and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride." I'll leave you with the words of Paulo Coelho. If you think adventure is dangerous, try routine. It's lethal.
If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, then please subscribe, rate us and leave a comment, because we know that helps other people find the podcast. And if other people find us, other introverts can flourish.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.